Hello and welcome to In the Court of the Wenton King. Today we're doing the Mars Volta. They are the Mars Volta with Francis the Mute. Francis the Mute French. It's not really French, they're Texan actually. I think they're Mexico-Texan something. Mexica-Texan. Maybe, I don't know. Really cool proggy band from the OOs. Lots of people called Rodriguez and that kind of thing. Long tracks. Very intense. Very good at mixing that real intense riffiness with melody. There's some nice tunes. And that's also about the vocals as well. There's actual avant-garde stuff on there, which we'll talk about. Definite locks, tones and Icepick influence in there. Maybe a bit in the guitar, kind of. Also Latino stuff, which I like. Vocals, there's lots of falsetto. It's very much the Muse, the post-Radiohead vocal, I think. The Muse type, stylised. It's not a natural vocal style, it's a really good vocal style. I mean, it's really great, but it's very stylised. And obviously the music is much more dynamic than Muse as well, so it's much more interesting, obviously. It's one of those things where, how do you describe it? It's filmy. It's not like film music, but it's like textural and visual. It gives you visual images in your head. The texture of the and all that, I think. Supposedly it's one of their best place to start. It's the second album from 2005.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of... Obviously, they're a progressive band.
Or influenced.
Yeah, and you're sort of thinking, oh god, more neo-prog, and
yeah.
To put it on. And the good thing about these, they're obviously very good, yeah, but there is a sort of danger in that sense that you can end up doing a good impression of prog music without the sort of the focus.
Which is what happens with neo-prog.
Yeah. So the great thing about, say, Pink Floyd is there's obviously a lot of time spent over thinking what the music should be.
A lot of time spent.
Yeah, people have a kind of idea of what it should be, what we're going to take out, how we're going to change this to make it sound like it should sound. Whereas I get the sense with a lot of neo-prog, and especially one where the bands are particularly competent, if it sounds like neo-prog, that's good enough.
Correct. It's good enough.
It's good enough. We can release this, we can stick it on Spotify, whatever, although pre-Spotify, I think.
If it sounds a bit like Rush, then it's correct.
But having said that, they do a pretty good job, yeah? I mean, they are better than your average neo-prog band, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I put this in the category of the Stephen Wilson category. They're not as good as Stephen Wilson, but rather than the more nerdy and quite banal IQ, that kind of band category.
I mean, Muse was an excellent thing. I was thinking Muse all the way through this.
It's much more interesting than Muse actually, but the sound of the band, particularly the vocals.
I started thinking, well, this sounds a little. I could the first track when that was on. I was thinking, well, I could play this to someone who likes the Chili Peppers, and it'd be quite a good sort of crossover piece because it sounds kind of funky. It's much more intense than the Chili Peppers.
Yeah,
but it's got that sound. But then you get sort of like a bluesy track, and there's something different. So there is that progressive element in there where they're trying different music styles and all that kind of stuff. But there are a lot of tracks on there, and actually at the end of it, I wasn't that engaged with the music.
Yeah, see, I find this in that I listen to a bit of it and I think I'm going to love this.
Yeah.
But I don't only need one album. You know, I've only heard the first album, this one, to be fair, so I don't really know, but that's how I feel. And to sit through the whole album, there's actually a track missing. The title track isn't on there. It's another 15 minutes, but you don't need it. You only need one song at a time. So I find I know the first two tracks much better than the rest of it.
Yeah, because it becomes sort of backgroundy stuff, and you know you have to make a particular effort. Now, with repeated listening, obviously that's going to change.
Yeah.
Because you're going to focus on the first two tracks, and you can get a little bit bored, and you're going to move on to something else as you get your ear in.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But I mean, the criticisms maybe unjustifiably undermine what is quite an interesting find. If you've never heard of Mars Volta and you're into prog rock, they're definitely worth.
Yeah, and I mean, who are their contemporaries? I mean, we're talking about it being a bit samey. It's not as samey as the other rock albums that came out in 2005. I couldn't even tell you who they were. Muse is great. I'm not saying Muse aren't great, but it is all the same. You know, relatively speaking to the stuff we review, and this is much more diverse than that. But it's strange how the diversity makes it all sound the same. It's interesting.
Well, yeah, it becomes another different song.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you sort of catalogue it in your prime, because that I just don't feel that focus is there that you get with a really good like Stephen Wilson.
There's no there's a
individual
focus,
definite focus there which brings you in, which makes you want to keep listening to the album and engaging with it. Whereas this, another different song, they're quite good at that. Oh, another different song, they're quite good at that.
Yeah, they're the musicians rather than the guy calling the shots, the conductor. There's no conductor, there's no composer who isn't part of the musicians.
Yeah.
There's no John Anderson. See what I said there? Or Stephen Wilson or whatever. And I think you got the nail on the head there. But it's great. Loads of noisy guitar, which obviously I wouldn't like. But I would have preferred something with better technique, which would have made it broader. You know, at the extreme end, remember what we said about Trackmaster Replica? A lot of the ridiculousness of it comes from the lack of technique in the guitar. They can play it just because they've learned the notes over and over and over, but there's not a lot of technique and control, and that applies to this to a certain extent. It's great though. I don't like the production. I'd like clarity. It's very trebly, but there's not much. The drumming's generally very low in the mix. When you've got the really intense stuff, you realise you can hardly hear the drumming. And that makes it very unlistenable. It makes it very. I'd rather hear what the drummer's doing, which is keeping it tight and really good. Which I'm sure is happening. Supposedly, it's about a diary that the sound tech found in a car, which is very Stephen Wilson, I think, actually. But I'm sure it's not real. I'm sure that's just a concept. That's pretty cool. Well, some of it's in a different language, or maybe all of it's in a different language, so you don't... And with all that going on, you don't really listen to the lyrics anyway. Definitely a tribute to Rush, obviously. I mean, first track being called Cygnus.
Yeah.
Obvious. Couldn't be more obvious. And they are a trendy Rush. It makes the sound less broad. They're probably more diverse, musically. But because they've got a trendy sound, it's not as wide as Rush, I think. Maybe. I think that's the best thing on the album is the first track. I like the way it ends with sounds. So it starts off with melodic stuff and it goes into proper avant-garde stuff. It is proper avant-garde stuff. And right at the very end, there's a little bit of what I think is actual Tago Mago, an actual sample, I think, at the very end of the track, which is great. The second track, The Widow, I think was a single. I think it was a single because it says on it, featuring The Widow. And this is 2005, so at that point you still had singles. Whereas now it wouldn't be a single, it'd just be a video on the internet, it wouldn't be a single. And that's really Radiohead. It's one of those melodies, it really sounds familiar. I couldn't quite put my finger on. It comes from something. I don't think it's just that it's a good melody and you think you've heard it before. I think that genuinely comes from something, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. And I like the way the first half has that commercial potential, and the second half, crazy stuff. Speeding up and slowing down, and I think they're doing that with pedals. I think it's always a performance. I don't think it's actually a studio twiddling the knobs. I think it's actually people playing it. But I think it's great. But as avant-garde stuff goes, it's not very broad. It's just it does sound like they're messing around to a certain extent. It's great, but it's not like King Crimson improvisation where they're searching for new stuff. They're just going, which is harsh because it's very, very difficult to get that stuff right.
Yeah.
I like Miranda, that ghost isn't holy anymore. No idea what that means. There's some horns on it, which really, really sketches of Spain, and actually some of it very, very, very lizard. King Crimson lizard as well. It's that kind of thing. But yeah, we've got a bit of everything really, haven't we? Is it a great album if you're bored? I was going to say that, but it kind of isn't. But one track of it is fantastic. You put one track on and you think, I really enjoyed that, But I don't think... I struggle to get through the whole album. And the last track, it's a 30-minute epic. It's just more of it. It's not as good as some of the other stuff on the album, That thing of assuming the longest track can be the best song is silly, obviously, but very rarely have I got through right to the end of that.
Yeah.
And I don't need any more albums of that band.
Yeah, I agree.
The Volta is taken from the Federico Fellini book about his films. Apparently Volta meaning change of scene, and Mars is cool in sci-fi. So the Mars Volta. Great, They were formed from At the Drive-In, and I had to jog my memory, and I think they were pretty boring 90s band, that kind of thing. I might be harsh, I don't know. I don't think it was prog or anything like that. So obviously they did their commercial thing and got bored of that and think, what should we do? Let's do music we love! Yes! 4 eggs. Yes.
You say 4 eggs, but I mean, it's difficult because you definitely appreciate it when you listen to it. You think, yeah, this is good, but then you think, well, actually, is it?
There's a lack of something drawing you in. It's just there.
So 4 eggs is quite high. It's a sort of, ooh, that's a good addition to my collection. So what do I do?
But yeah, I mean, I bought that when it came out. I don't think I bought it in 2005. Probably listened to it sometime in 2006. I haven't listened to it since then until I had to review it.
Yeah, that's the point, isn't it? I mean, but 3 eggs feels harsh.
It does,
because there's a lot of good in this.
It's great stuff on there. Yeah.
On that point, we should give it 4 eggs because we want to encourage music like this.
Exactly.
Yes. There we go.
Great stuff, right? Yeah. Van de Graaff generator with possibly controversially, Porn Hearts first. See you next week.